They were treating critically ill patients in the ICU. And just to zip to the end of this, their success rate was 60% reduction in mortality using UVB light only. Almost all of them have receptors for vitamin D.
Wow.
So that's your first clue how important this is. And that's why I say 70% of diseases generally have a relationship with vitamin D in some form.
Welcome to Manufacturing Insiders. Today I have David Letourneau with me. He is the president of a company called Enyrgy, which has made a really, really interesting product that is, a way for anybody to boost their vitamin D levels on the go, without access to the sun, like a lot of us up north have a problem with. David has a long history in business. He has about 5 years in the UV light industry and has been through a couple different iterations. But I'm really excited to pick your brain today, David, about how you got into this. What's been your process for bringing it to market? How are you contracting out the different components that are involved in the assembly? So welcome to Manufacturing Insiders.
Thank you, Nate. My pleasure to be here.
Awesome. So Enyrgy, I know that you were involved in the UV space in the past, and there's a lot of interesting products that kind of come out of that. The one that I'm most familiar with are sort of those, sanitizing applications of UV light. But as we all know, UV light plays a pretty critical role in human health and vitality. And so that's really what you're into now. So tell me a little bit about the product.
Sure. Just the background on that. Yes, we have a UVC product that's really effective that we developed during the early days of COVID. And so we do participate in that space, and it's a wonderful application of light. This is a great way to sterilize, to just create safe spaces in whether it be in your home office or in a medical facility. So just kind of put that in the background as our starting point. But as far as Enyrgy goes, we met. I say we. Scott Hansberry is my co-founding partner in this company, and we met some doctors out of LSU that were doing a FDA clinical trial, peer-reviewed at Baylor during the early days of COVID.
Right.
With regard to they were treating using UVB light. They were treating critically ill patients in the ICU. And just to zip to the end of this, their success rate was 60% reduction in mortality using UVB light only.
I'm not surprised. I mean,
Yeah.
I've read research studies. I know China was doing a big research study on the efficacy of combining vitamin C with vitamin D. And essentially what they found is that if you have adequate levels of vitamin D and vitamin C, you're not going to die from COVID.
That it took about a year to really for the researchers to really understand the relationship between COVID and vitamin D. But once they did, that's exactly what they found out, is that the people that died had very low vitamin D levels, and the people that kind of breezed through, I'm a good example. We had gotten into this space already prior to that, and I was fortunate not to get COVID in the early days. I didn't get it till 3 years in. I was kind of already in the rearview mirror, really, when I finally got it. Didn't even know I had it. I just was feeling a little punky one afternoon and decided, I should go just get this checked out. They tested me and said, yeah, you got COVID. They did a PCR, and the next day phoned me and said, yeah, you got COVID. I said, well, I think I had it because that was yesterday. And I felt a little bit, just a little off for just literally a few hours. The afternoon, I took a nap.
That's
And that
phenomenal.
because my vitamin D, of course, because this is our business, my vitamin D level is typically between 80 and 100. That's measured in nanograms per milliliter. And that's the US measurement, by the way. If you've got followers in other countries, they'd be about 2.5 times that in nanomoles per liter. But
Okay.
so that was exactly
So
what we
that's a good level. So the 80 to 90 is a good level. What is there like an
60 to,
average level?
60 to 100 would be where the researchers would say, put yourself there and you've got a great baseline for your health.
Right.
Now, an average level is more like 20 to 30.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. In fact, when we first got into this, I said to Scott, I said, okay, I'm outside all the time. I ride my mountain bike 4 times a week. I like to hike. I want to be outside. That's what I just kind of what I do. And so I said, I know I'm going to be good because I'm in the sun a lot and I'm in Arizona. So that's lots of sun. And so I tested. I was 34. And
Wow.
it just underlines how everyone is low. If people they want to get tested, so if I could nag on your listeners and your viewers, I would say get tested, find out this is baseline for your health. 70% of the diseases of humanity have a relationship with vitamin D. So you want to know where your vitamin D is.
Sure.
If
So
you're
what do you
low,
think the reason I mean, I know like a lot of times people default to this idea, which I push back on, that there's some systemic issue why they can't absorb or create vitamin D. I like to think that humans are created pretty well and that there has to be some other reason. Like I think to myself, perhaps it could be the use of sunscreen. Maybe that's why they're not getting the vitamin D from the sun. Maybe they're just going out with, pants and shirts all the time and they're only getting sun on their face and so they aren't exposing the surface area. Like what do you think the reason is?
we know what the reason is. And let's roll back to our ancestors. You know,
Yep.
they say the cradle of civilization is East Africa near the equator. We were designed to get our vitamin D, obviously the most important supplement. We were designed to get it from the sun.
Right.
And we, like I say, we, meaning our ancestors, got lots of it. We were also a little hairier and dark because we were getting too much of it, if the truth were known, and that's why. But as we moved away from the equator, we lost our hair, we lost our pigmentation in our skin, and that was purposely so that we could absorb more sunlight. And that worked really, really well up until just a few decades ago, when civilization really moved indoors to work,
Mm.
indoors to play,
Mm-hmm.
and there's your first problem.
Mm-hmm.
Then you add sunscreen and dermatologist warnings and all of
Yep.
that to it, and you end up with an epidemic, which is what we have today. If you look at how many people are under, if you say that the baseline should really be 60, which is the researchers that we work with, we have a scientific advisory board, a medical advisory board. These are the most sophisticated people in the vitamin D business, led by Dr. Bruce Hollis out of the University Medical Center, South Carolina, Charleston. 46 years in doing vitamin D research. There's not a lot he can't tell you about vitamin D.
Sure.
And what we know is that we should be between 60 and 100. Well, if that's your definition, it's almost everyone is low.
Mm.
If you're fortunate enough to have 40 or 50 level, you're going to have a lot of protection from a lot of things, but there's still more benefits that would come with higher levels. And
Right.
so it's almost everyone. Our own experience puts it at about 19 out of 20 people, because we have a rapid test for vitamin D that we use a lot now,
Okay.
facilities that have our device and people that want to be tested. And we can get a vitamin D level in 15 minutes now, a really
Oh
good test
wow.
that
Okay.
we have. Yeah, which is the first of its kind that I know of. It's part of our platform for this whole vitamin D application, if you will. And so 1 out of 20 might have levels. Like we're testing 40, 50 people regularly, and typically it's 1, 2, or 3 out of 50 might have a decent level.
Wow.
And
So
and
I take vitamin D3 about I think I take 5,000 IUs pretty much every day, at
mhm,
least in the wintertime.
yeah,
Um do you think my levels are? I mean, obviously, I want to get tested, but like, what do you think that does for me?
It's if your body if your chemistry works to absorb and your body wants the vitamin D and will assimilate it, you could have a decent level of vitamin D. The challenge with oral is, again, research based. About 25% of people do not absorb, assimilate, or make use of vitamin D orally. It's a waste, and
Mm,
we run into them all the time. If people go to our website and take a look, there's a testimonial there by a fellow, a very knowledgeable guy. He's actually in the red light business, so he knows a lot about phototherapy.
yeah.
And he when I first met him, he was quite excited. He said, "I'm really anxious to see if what you've got works," because he said, "I've wanted to have my vitamin D up my whole life, and I have never been able to get it there." He said, "When I was still trying, which is now years ago, I got as high as 20,000 IU's a day, and it wasn't moving."
Mm,
And so he got our device for his office and for his home, and he in 10 weeks of treating himself about 5 times a week, he went from a baseline of 37 that he tested before he started, and he got to 78 in 10 weeks.
wow.
He was excited, and
He
in fact,
probably felt a little different, right?
absolutely, because the early things the benefits that you get are, if you're not sleeping well, it might be associated. It might be a lot of things, but vitamin D will definitely be a contributing factor. If you have low energy, a few basic aches and pains, and kind of just doesn't feel like things are working well, because you got to realize there's about 37 trillion cells in our body. Almost all of them have receptors for vitamin D.
Wow.
So that's your first clue how important this is. And that's why I say 70% of diseases generally have a relationship with vitamin D in some form. So it's a minor inconvenience to not sleep well. It's a minor inconvenience to have a little ache or pain. But then in the longer term, or let's say midterm, it's again somewhat minor, but being sick regularly or getting flu or colds or the things that are just going around, again, that'll happen if you're low in vitamin D, because you got to remember, if all those cells are sitting there waiting for their vitamin D, they're not able to perform optimally.
Right.
So there's all kinds of things that are going to happen, and those are the things that happen as you go. Long term, the things that happen become much more serious. And so again, going back to the doctors we met out of LSU, they went on to tell us not just the COVID story, but they said, look, we know that we can have a huge impact on MS. We know
Hmm.
that this has an impact on Parkinson's,
Wow.
Alzheimer's, a lot of different types of cancer. Breast cancer is an example. Women that have a vitamin D level above 60 have an 80% less incidence of breast cancer.
Wow.
Men in
It makes
prostate.
these conversations start to make my blood boil because I have such antipathy for the pharmaceutical industry and for their desire to monetize human health so dramatically that real treatment, the treatment that we were meant to get, the preventative treatment, which vitamin D is a big part of that, just gets swept under the rug because it doesn't make any money. You can't make any money off of vitamin D. It comes from the
100%.
sun.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely right. So if you look at where can I get my vitamin D, we've talked a little about the supplements, and there's some benefit there, no question, but it falls short significantly. And the reason that it falls short is, like I say, the roughly 25% of people that just can't make use of it. But then beyond that, it doesn't have as big an impact on your immune system, which is really the main thing you want from your
Right.
vitamin D, is your immunity. And it just does, again, research shows it doesn't have the impact that it should. And when we get our vitamin D from light, then our immune system's coupled up with vitamin D and performing optimally. And so that's why again, you're going to have higher energy and you're not going to get stuff that's going around. But then 20, 30 years later, you hopefully will have some defense against some of these really serious diseases that take decades to develop and that we get in later in life.
Right.
So then if you move on from the supplements and say, where else? What about food, right? That's the first thing we think of is, if I eat right, aren't I good on my vitamin D? And the answer is, sorry, Just we weren't designed that way. Our body's not set up for that. There's vitamin D added to milk, and there's vitamin D that's added to various products. There's
Right.
also vitamin D in red meat. There's vitamin D in line caught. Wild fish
Cod.
is a
Yep.
decent source of vitamin D. There's a number of areas, mushrooms, shiitake especially. But the research shows that the highest you'd ever get would be 15 or 20% if you were just really paying close attention and eating all the best of the vitamin D foods. And you'd be
Right.
pretty sick of, because there's not a lot of them that do have naturally contained vitamin D. So you'd be pretty tired of them as well. So it's more
Right.
like 5 or 10% for most people that they might get their vitamin D from their food. It's just not possible. So then you go, why don't I just go out in the sun? And that, and you know what? Good idea.
Yeah. That's
Don't
what you should have been doing. Yes.
don't wear sunscreen for the first while, but when
Yep.
you do go in the sun, just don't burn.
Yep.
Go often and don't burn. But here's the problem. I think you're in Pennsylvania, correct?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, uh, we're talking here in May of 2025, and you're about to start getting a decent amount of UV midday where you
Mm-hmm.
are. I get, in Arizona, I get UV year round, but even in Arizona in December, January, February, we still only get a window that's only about 2 hours wide at midday.
Yep.
So what are you doing at noon?
Right. At
You're
work.
working.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
you're doing this
Yep.
sort of thing. And so it's unfortunate, but from north of the 35th, which runs from the parallel, which runs from Las Vegas to Atlanta approximately, anything north of that, you have several months that you get zero from the
Yep.
sun. You get zero. You can go out there and say it's a beautiful day. And you hear a lot of people talk about morning sun. I should go out there and reset for my circadian rhythm, and I should get my blue light, and I should get this and that and all the rest of it. And it's all true. Red light, we get a little bit in mid morning and later, and those are all really, really good. You don't get UVB at all for several months. And the challenge with sun generally is just trying to control it without burning and trying to get it at a time where you can get UVB, which is where you get your vitamin D. That's all part of the process and for
Right.
your body. So the challenge with it really revolves around that, your location. But even where I am in Arizona, as we talked early, um, because again, I'm like everybody else, I'm working in the middle of the day as well. But natural sunshine, here's the biggest problem of all. Natural sunshine is 95% UVA. It's
Okay.
5% UVB. Now we do get a lot of good from UVA. You're still going to get endorphins. You're going to get the serotonin, and you're going to get um, the nitric oxide, which is cardiovascular health, BDNF, which is brain health. We want all these things. These are awesome. The
Yep.
problem is, and this is where the dermatologists have jumped on this bandwagon big time, there's just too much of it. It's 95% of sunshine. So when we manufactured this device, we spent this was not a small engineering problem coupled with a medical, background on it to say, okay, how do we build this? And so as we were starting with a clean white sheet, no one's done what we've done in terms of a device that will deliver it this way.
That's crazy. Yeah.
So we started off by saying, let's make this 95% UVB and
Okay.
5% UVA. We still
Right.
want some UVA. We just don't want so much of it. So that's where we ended up. And that's why today, a 2 to 4 minute treatment, which is all it takes once a day, uh, even 3 times a week is fine.
That's
And that's
amazing.
going to be on bare skin on your stomach, and turn around
Okay.
and do your bare skin on your back. So it's
Okay.
convenient. It's to the skin. It's natural. This is the exact same rays that you get from the sun. It's just that we've made it so that it's less risky, safe, and the dosages. We call it precision engineered. And I know you want to talk about the manufacturing side because that's kind of
Yeah.
the theme of your podcast. So
Yeah.
my apologies for running off in an area
No, I
that
mean,
I'm
I'm
enthusiastic about.
interested in talking about any topic that has a broad interest. I mean, I don't care if you're a manufacturer, if you're a shoe salesman, you should be interested in vitamin D. So I think it's a great topic to talk about. So
Right.
4 minutes, that's it, per day.
2 to 4, yeah, depending on your
2
skin
to
type.
4.
You and
Wow.
I are pretty pale. I'm a skin type 3. You're probably in maybe a low 3, somewhere in that range. I'm just guessing.
Yeah.
Uh, but you'll start out at a minute, and then as you go through more and more treatments, more and more often, you can get as high as 2 minutes,
Okay.
and that's it. 2 minutes front, 2 minutes back, and
And you could technically get sunburn if you did it for too long, right?
that's why this is all run by an app. So
Yep.
this is app controlled. Like I say, precision engineered. We know what dosage we're giving you. We have a medical team that put together the protocols that when you download the app, you're going to fill in a whole lot of questions the first time you do it. And we'll ask you all about your skin type and your tanning habits and all that kind of thing, your hair color, eye color. This all
Yep.
leads to how much we can give you to give you the maximum possible dosage, or what we would call optimum dosage, really. And so in that 2 to 4 minute treatment, you're getting the equivalent of 2 to 4 hours of healthy sunshine without the
Wow.
risky part.
Wow.
So that's where we are very excited about what we have, about what we can offer people, because quite frankly, we've already discussed all the ways of getting vitamin D.
Hmm.
And that's why everyone's low. It's not
Right.
easy.
Yeah.
It's really hard. And some of our bodies, everybody's chemistry is different. So some of our bodies just don't make it as well. If
Yeah.
you're overweight, unfortunately, vitamin D is fat soluble, and so it gravitates to the fat. So if you're overweight, it's harder for you again.
Yeah.
If you're darker, it just takes longer. So an African American will probably start at a 2 minute treatment front and back, but they need to be doing it more often than you and I do, just because it's hard to get vitamin D. And those again, research is clear that darker the skin, the more challenging and the lower levels of vitamin D you probably have. And
Hmm.
the older you get, the more challenges you have. Your skin ages, unfortunately, not that gracefully. So,
Right.
as we know, a little wrinkle here or there.
Yeah.
So it just
I've been religiously using beef tallow on my face. I think it works. I think it makes a big difference.
well, I wondered what it was. What was your secret? Okay, so I got to go with the
Well,
beef.
part of it's only, I'm only 41, but doing pretty good for 41, I think. Still got my
I'm
hair
doing just
and,
fine. Yeah.
but so you had some experience previous to Energy in kind of developing the fixtures for UV lights.
Yes.
So I assume that solved a lot of kind of your initial design challenges. Um, Tell me about how did this idea come about? I would imagine it was somewhat organic. What are some other uses for UV light? Then what was your next step? Like, how did you move this towards bringing a product to market?
Good questions that we could certainly go on for hours on this particular topic, which
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to do today. But we we acquired a company that had a patent, uh, actually multiple patents for the light card, the actual LED that is the brains and the center of all of this. Now, when we take that light card, what the brilliance of it is, um, it's nano LEDs. We took this to a level where we reject, again, we're talking to manufacturers, so if they're in the LED space, they understand binning, which is the process of deciding which LEDs we want. And so
Mm-hmm.
when we're binning to about 5% of product passes, if you will, roughly on average.
Oh
And
wow.
so we're rejecting 95% to start with. And that's a good part, and a good part of the reason that we say we're precision, because we start with precision. And this light card, we handle heat really well. We've got the engineering behind us that we've perfected that side of it. So we can build an LED light card anywhere on the light spectrum.
Okay.
So this company started in visible light. It was
Yep.
developed for lighting in Hollywood, and we've got a spectacular light for Hollywood in terms of uniformity of lighting. Typically, if you're using, lights that have been used in the past, incandescent of various types, they have hot spots, as we know. And so it's
Right.
really difficult to do a really good job of lighting. And our visible light with a 200-watt power light that's literally a 5-inch cube will light up half an acre with light. If you take a light meter to the far side and the other side and the middle, it'll get a very uniform reading right across, which is unheard of in lighting.
Hmm.
So that's just one example.
So
So then,
you're targeting that very, very specific wavelength range, kind of that 290 to 3 something, which is where you would get the most vitamin D production. Is that kind of what you're
yeah,
doing?
280 to 315 is UVB. And we landed on, after much testing, and you'll see a lot of opinions on this. We landed on 304
Okay.
is what peak is. And the reason for that is because if you go lower, you get into UVC. Our UVC device is pinpointed at 265, which is, research is really clear. That's the kill zone. We can kill COVID in less than a second, like
Mm.
way less than a second, just by, moving across with our device. And even MRSA and C. diff we kill in nano kind of
Mm-hmm.
timeline. So,
Yep.
so the reason that we got to where we are in terms of our space is we want to make sure we've got no UVC in here. You don't want any of that on yourself,
Right.
on your bare skin. So we don't have any of that. But we wanted to let in a little bit of UVA. We wanted to be very narrow band, but that's where we let in 5% of UVA, so our device will not only deliver massive quantities of vitamin D, but it'll have that nitric oxide, serotonin, endorphins, BDNF, and
Interesting.
all
Okay.
those good
Okay.
benefits. So we have
Yeah.
all of by getting to that. So then the challenge, in terms of, to people that are in manufacturing that have gone through this, understand, and the time, the money to develop this came around getting the medical side of it together with the engineering side to say, okay, we can do this, and how much power, distance, how we contain it. We don't want to get UV in our eyes. Excuse me, UVB, UVA, UVC, none of it. We don't want it in our eyes, and that's why
Right.
when you go outside, you wear some kind of hat or eye protection of some kind, sunglasses, that type of thing.
Right. Yep.
And so we didn't want it in our eyes. So that's where we treat the torso as well. Plus, it happens to be a nice, good sized skin area that we can treat with precision because it's
Yep.
pretty flat. We also learned that not everybody's flat. so, so if your belly intrudes into the device a little bit, we have sensors in there that adjust the power accordingly. You still get the same dosage, but you're
Yeah.
closer. So we don't need to put as much power behind it because you're closer
Interesting.
to the source.
Wow. Very. Yeah.
So this was, like I say, this took a couple of years, and
I'm
then we
sure.
beta tested it for about 9 months in several facilities and homes in the Phoenix area, and went through, because we were developing the app at the same time, because this is all driven by an app, and
Hmm.
that's where it really gets interesting. So it's been a great journey. It's been
Yeah.
really gratifying to be able to do this, to get these kind of results where people that, well, people in Pennsylvania that have, what do you have for a choice
Yeah.
to get
There's no other
vitamin D?
option.
You can take the oral and you'll fall short. Um,
Yep.
so that's about your only option up to
Right.
today. And
Yep.
so people have seasonal affective disorder, and they have all the problems of low vitamin D, which, like I said, are many. And so here we are. We're pretty excited that we've got something that's really, really valuable to virtually everybody.
That's amazing. And you said, is it still the case that there's not really anybody else out there with a comparable product? Wow.
Well, with the precision, there's lots of UVB. UVB's been around for 100 years. It's bulbs for the most part.
Right.
I refer to bulbs as, it's indiscriminate is the challenge, because it's just a bulb. So can you get the benefit of vitamin D from a UVB bulb? Yeah, you can. It's just tricky. You don't want to get it in your eyes. So there's your first problem. You got to figure out
Right.
how close you should be, how long you should stay. You know, so it's
Yep.
challenging, but
Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
So, how long has it been since you completed that beta test phase and said, "Okay, we're ready to sell this"?
a few months.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we're in
And
the market now, and just really gearing up to do big things.
wow. Yeah, it's an interesting, I'm thinking about it from a marketing perspective. Um, this is something that it should be public service notice level. Like, this is what needs to be done. You know what I mean? Like, there shouldn't even you shouldn't even have to market this product, right?
Oh,
Like, it's just a no-brainer. But
yeah,
you're going to have to. And you're
yeah,
gonna have to, compete with people that want to sell their pharmaceutical, their selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors for SAD instead of the natural conclusion.
yeah.
But so what's kind of your plan? Like, what have you had some success with so far with marketing this?
We, I mean, your business is exactly that, and we really feel like podcasting is it's been the most successful thing we've done so far, because people that would watch a podcast like this, now again, you're going to have some manufacturers that are interested in some of that side of it, but most people that are healthy want to be healthier.
Yeah,
And so it's this in the medical business, do we want to be reactive? You know, I get sick, so I go to the doctor, or do I want to go to someone that could help me not ever get sick?
right.
Now, if you slip and break a bone, there's reactive is the only method, but
Yep.
there's just so much of medicine that really should be more focused on preventive. The interesting part is there's this whole area of functional medicine, the naturopaths and the chiropractors that do a good job with this, and just the wellness people that aren't even doctors. They just have
Hmm.
assembled this huge amount of knowledge by getting the research and understanding what it is you need that's not considered medical. Like, we're not under
Right.
the FDA for this. We're
Right.
not designed to diagnose, treat, cure, prevent disease. I mean, we're designed to, I mean, we do all that, but we can't
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. Exactly.
So it's this is a whole discussion that's so important for people to really take control of your own health, to be
Hmm.
preventive instead of reactive. Like I say, you're still going to need the reactive part now and then. Hopefully you don't need it much
Yep.
if you really plan ahead. But a lot of this is decades in development. You don't get cancer overnight. It's not something that somebody sneezed and, all of a sudden you got cancer. I mean, it takes years. So
Right.
you need to set your body up for success. That's the challenge. That's the planning that's needed.
Exactly. Yeah, and I I have I have this guy that I knew for a long time. I'm not going to give any more specific detail because it'll give it away. But he's always complaining about this health problem, this health problem, this health problem, and it's like, when was the last time you like took a walk and exercise? Well, I know I need to do that. And he's always trying all these wacky treatments and therapies, and it's like, just do the common sense things. That's what people need to do, is they need to do the common sense things, the things we've always known about, the things that were literally intended to cure, prevent, whatever diseases, right? Um, but this is actually kind of like the best of both worlds, because it's quick, easy, and it accomplishes the goal.
Right?
It's just as easy as taking a pill, which people love doing that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think it's brilliant. So tell me about some of the challenges in the manufacturing side of things. How are you sourcing materials, for the fixture, and how are you assembling all this?
We do production right in Scottsdale, Arizona, in our facility there, and so we're proudly American in that regard. Now, again, as anybody listening to this that's in manufacturing would understand, any level of sophistication and the challenges of assembling all those pieces. They're coming from all over the world. I don't care what
Right.
you're building. I mean, they
Right.
just probably are, unless it's really simple, which very little is. We have an office where our supply chain manager works out of Taiwan, and we have a little warehouse there as well. And so we're bringing all these things from all over the world into Arizona and assembling there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, um, what volume are we talking about right now in terms of sales? Is it enough for like the tariffs to have affected, your price point in sales?
If tariffs move forward at the level that was being thrown around here over this last 60 days or so, it for sure would have an impact, no question, because we're the manufacturer. We do sell direct, but we also sell through distributors. So they've
Yep.
got to make their margin. And as you know, it's expensive to run a business. They need a good margin. And
Yep.
so every time a dollar gets added to the cost, it ends up being a multiple dollars on the MSRP kind of thing.
Right.
So yeah, it'll for sure, if it went through at those levels, we're feeling pretty confident that it looks like we're going to be okay, as far as seeing major impact. But we're, like I say, we've just started selling this, so we don't have high volume at this point, but we're about to. We've got two OEM distributors now that we're white labeling for, and
Oh,
they're both expected to be pretty high volume here over the next few months. So we're going to see we're going to see things ramping up quickly. So we for sure have taken our bomb and priced out exactly, column A today, column B if this level of tariff comes in, and column B
right.
is definitely significantly higher, no question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting model. So you are kind of like pursuing the white label, like if you could almost have one of these health practitioners that's very successful want to put their name on this product and call it theirs. Is that kind of like the main marketing
No,
strategy or?
not really. No, we're building our own brand, really. These two we've got so far, we might add maybe one or two more, depending on what space they're in and what their channels are. Because we
Yep.
want to avoid channel conflict, obviously, and
Yep.
you can get into that pretty quickly.
Sure.
Um, so we want to be careful with that. But no, it's mostly build the brand, and best way to build that brand, we believe, is through influencers, through social media, through all the things that you do in your business there with lead gen and all those things. It's a different world than it was. I'm old enough to have bought Yellow Page ads,
Right.
because
Right.
I'm a serial entrepreneur, I mean, that was the big deal. If you want to, if you're in business, you got to have a Yellow Page ad, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it was
My
really
dad used I
expensive.
remember my dad used to run them. He was a general contractor and that was how
Yeah,
he used to market, 30,
absolutely.
40 years ago.
Yeah. Well,
But
it's no different today in terms of you got to do SEO, you got to do, you've got to get your name, and it costs. Back when it was
yep,
Yellow Pages, you paid for the bigger ad ran first. So,
yep,
you paid for your place in line, just like you do today. So the concepts haven't changed.
yep,
So we're
exactly.
using the same concepts as you'd be using.
Right. Yeah, and that's, it's an interesting conversation around SEO and how that works for a product that's new to market because a lot of times you have this challenge where if the product is new to market, nobody's going to directly look for it, right? And so you kind of have to hit it from a different angle. And I pulled up a little thing, a little tool that I came across earlier, that is really interesting. So basically, it's targeting anybody that's kind of trying to figure out how much vitamin D they're going to get from the sun.
Yeah.
And here it is, the Sunshine Calendar from Grassroots Health. But this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
It shows you
Terrific organization,
kind
by
of
the way. We know them really well. Those are really sincere, nonprofit, kind of an organization. It's really good.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like it. So basically what it's telling us is by month, in a given latitude, how much UV, how much vitamin D essentially you're going to get from the sun. And so the yellow is low sunshine, the orange is moderate, and the red is high.
Yeah,
So in January and February, where I am in Pennsylvania, I'm not getting anything.
correct.
And then I'm getting moderate in March. Yeah, and then once again I'm getting nothing in November or December.
Yeah,
So yeah, just kind of interesting tool. But this is the type of thing like I would be thinking about if I were you working on SEO, is like if I have this topic of vitamin D on my mind, what am I going to be looking for? What kind of questions am I going to be Googling? And then also you could hit it from the angle of the chronic conditions and the cancer prevention and the reducing the effects of if you catch COVID or one of these other coronaviruses, so you can kind of hit it from the condition level, and answering questions about what the best way to deal with that condition are, and then also from people that are already looking for a way to boost their vitamin D.
right. Yeah, agreed. It We have an education job. It's not
Yep.
like you say, no one knows about this. It's one of the challenges. It's at once a huge advantage for us to be first mover in this space, but it's also the challenge because we have to educate. We have to be
Right.
the ones to educate people to not only. I would say we don't have to educate completely about vitamin D. That's out there quite a bit now, but a lot of it quite inaccurate. There's still a huge percentage of the medical community that thinks that a level of 30 is fine. And
Right.
and if you go to one of the big labs, one of the big blood labs, and have your blood taken, they're going to show adequate as 30 or 30 to 100.
Mm,
Well, I can tell you that there's a really big difference between 30 and 31 and 100
right.
in terms of what it'll do for you long run. So you don't want to be at 30. That's just 50-year-old roughly kind of thinking, because in the medical community and the researchers, the first thing they discovered about vitamin D was that it was related to rickets, and that was in Great Britain and in the UK,
Mm.
with all the industrial pollution and smog and everything else, and they're quite a ways north. Um, the kids had rickets, and they found that if they got them in the sun, they could be cured. And
Huh.
it
Yeah.
took a long time to figure that out. But
Right.
why I say 50 years ago, up to about 50 years ago, what we knew is that if you had a level of 25 to 30 nanograms per milliliter of your vitamin D, you had pretty good what they call calcification of your bones. So chances are, the kids aren't going to have rickets, and the adults, particularly older people, probably aren't going to get osteoporosis, osteomalacia, and those kinds of problems. And so that we just thought of vitamin D as bone health. That's all. That was all it was considered. And so it was since that time that the researchers really dug in and have uncovered all these other benefits. And as I talked about the breast cancer and the prostate, and all the MS things and all that, that's as you go higher. And now there's 60, 70,000 research studies been done on all this. And so we now know this conclusively, that the benefits keep moving as you go up. So
Mm-hmm.
so that's why I
Interesting.
say, it takes years for some of this to filter down. And so if you happen to go to a doctor that isn't up to speed, they're going to say, oh, you're at 32, you're fine. Well, you're not. you know, I shouldn't say you're not. You're kind of fine, but it's like putting off the inevitable. You're
Right.
just
Exactly.
susceptible to so much more in terms of the problems medically that can happen later. So
Yeah.
it's just getting your shield up for the long run.
That's a good analogy. Yeah. You could be a lot more fine.
That's
So,
a good way to put it. Yeah.
right.
Exactly.
So, yeah, you motivated me. I mean, I have two little ones. I push vitamin D. I'm a big believer and I have been for a long time. And, I give both my kids vitamin D, although infant is a little difficult to figure that one out, but
Make
drip a
sure.
little bit on his food. But
Yeah.
this is simple. This is super easy way. So what? So somebody wants to buy this product. What are we looking at as far as cost and how do we do it?
On a commercial version, which is unlimited number of people using it, unlimited number of treatments, although once a day is what we don't. The app won't let them treat more than once a day for obvious reasons. So the commercial version for a wellness facility or a doctor's office or a gym is a great place for it because people are there a lot. It's
Yeah.
$14,000. The home unit is the same unit physically, with a different surrounding app with it. It's limited to 6 users, which not too many homes that would need more than 6 using it. And so that one sells for $34.42 on our website. And the
Okay.
website is ENYRGY. So it's energy just spelt with a Y instead of that second E. And you and I can agree on this. I think that you'd probably like your listeners to get a little discount because they know you. And
Yeah.
put up here.
Yep. Yep.
So if they put in WE100, they'll get $100 discount.
And we will put that in the actually, what is the best way? Well, yeah, if somebody read the description on the YouTube video, then they probably watched it. We can put it
Sure.
right in there.
Yeah, you can put in the notes,
Yeah.
right, or in the title even.
Yep.
But WE, uppercase WE, and just the number 100, and that'll give them $100 off.
Yeah, and I mean, I think if people were really aware of what their vitamin D levels were and what the long-term repercussions of maintaining that level are, that would seem like a pretty negligible investment in their future well-being, and all of
Hey,
the conditions you're going to avoid.
right. Somebody that doesn't want to pay for it all at once. Again, we're like every other website. We can finance it, and there's several different options. And I think it's as low as like $170 a month or something. So it's
Yeah.
there's kind of no excuse. I don't know what you spend on your health. I spend a lot because it's what we need to do.
Yep.
And I feel phenomenal. When I say spend a lot, I mean, as a percentage of income is not very much kind of thing, but it seems like quite a bit, maybe, I don't know, maybe I spend 200 a month on various things that I think are important for me. So,
Yep. Yep. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, and this is definitely an easy thing to do. And it's always fascinating to me to just think about light. We just think of it as just this, oh yeah, illuminates things. It makes it so we can see things, but light is like it's magical. It really is. I mean,
yeah,
there's research on the red light stuff, and like it's really hard to kind of put your finger on the exact benefit, but everybody knows that it has benefits. We just don't really understand it that well. So yeah, I think we're going to find out more. I think we're going to find out more about different wavelengths and their specific
yeah.
use in our bodies. But this is one that we have figured out, and I think it's pretty awesome what you're bringing to market here.
It's, I always refer to it as my wife and I and our family. I mean, we're beach people. And
Yeah.
I think we got drawn to the beach because, who doesn't feel great when you're at the beach?
Oh yeah.
Well, why? Water's pretty good, but I think it's the sun mostly. I mean,
Yeah.
you're feeling good. You got
Yep.
energy. You're feeling good. So
Yeah, you're showing a lot of skin, and you're absorbing a lot of UV.
exactly.
Yep. Well, hey, thanks a lot for joining today, David. I think this was a illuminating discussion that
Right.
we've had here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really appreciate your time, and I wish you all the success in the world.
I think we froze for a second there, Nate. Can you hear me? It's been,
Oh, we
I
froze
think we
there.
froze for a second, so hopefully we can just edit that out.
I
And
can cut that out. You can just respond to it now, and I'll just cut that little part out.
it's been my pleasure to be here, Nate. Thanks. This has been a really invigorating discussion. I love your enthusiasm for vitamin D, which is separate, obviously not related to your business or anything else. It's just related to your health and your future. And
Yep.
I'm excited to be offering this, and so really look forward to seeing what else we can do here in the future.
Sounds good, David. Thanks.
Thank you.